Let me reveal something that fundamentally shifted the course of my life. Becoming a millionaire didn't come from chance. It wasn't something I stumbled upon, and it didn't happen by doing what the average person does daily. I achieved success by embracing 5 life-changing principles. They were simple in nature, but that didn't mean they were easy. Still, they were powerful enough to help an ordinary man with modest beginnings design an extraordinary destiny. Now, here's a reality you must accept. If you're dissatisfied with your current position in life, remember, you are not rooted to the ground. You're not a tree. You can move. And if transformation is what you seek, true, lasting transformation, you don't need an overwhelming list of goals. You just need a handful of strong ideas paired with relentless execution. And that's precisely what I'll offer you in this message. 5 principles, 5 shifts, 5 guiding lessons that helped me attain financial independence. You may jot them down. You may reflect on them. But if you're truly committed, you'll start living them. Because if you're weary of stagnation, of mere survival, then what you need is real wisdom. Wisdom that works. And that's what this lesson from Napoleon Hill World delivers. So grab your pen, open your heart, because this may be the spark that reignites your life's purpose. Let's dive in. Your value determines your wealth, not your time. We begin with a lesson that redefined my understanding of success. You don't get compensated simply for clocking in. You earn based on the value you contribute during the time you offer. Let me repeat that, not for emphasis, but for truth. You're not paid for your hours. You're paid for the worth you bring into those hours. This idea changed everything for me. I once thought success came from grinding harder. Longer hours, heavier workload, constant effort. But then a mentor once told me, Napoleon, it's not about how long you work, it's about what you produce during those hours. That insight stunned me. It made me reevaluate everything I was doing. Like many, I believed effort alone would bring prosperity. But the world doesn't reward labor for labor's sake. It rewards results. To be clear, working diligently is admirable, but diligence without value won't generate wealth. Value is what shifts your income. Consider this. 2 individuals, both investing 8 hours of their day. One earns $15, 0 cents an hour. The other, $150, 0 cents. The clock is the same. The difference lies not in time, but in developed value. One person refined skills, adopted effective thinking patterns, and created solutions others needed, and that's what the world pays for. So here's the ultimate insight. If you desire to earn more, not more stress, not more hours, more value. Now let me share a difficult truth. The economy doesn't adjust your paycheck because of your struggles. The market doesn't hand out bonuses because you're honest or hardworking. It evaluates your contribution. If your income falls short of your expectations, don't blame the system. Look inward and ask, what new value can I bring to the world? That single question transformed my path, and it can do the same for you. It puts the power of change back in your hands. No more stalling, no more hoping, just dedicated learning, focused growth, and purposeful transformation. Let me share an example that shaped my path. Early in my professional life, I was barely staying afloat. I showed up, I put in the hours, but I wasn't moving forward. Then I read a book that completely shifted my mindset. I recognized that I was depending on hard work alone, not on mastery. So I made a decision. From that day on, I would commit to self-growth. I read daily, I studied, I practiced. I built up my capabilities, deepened my awareness, and focused on becoming someone more resourceful. And with time, the shift was noticeable. People started paying more attention. Opportunities came more frequently. My earnings began to grow. Why? Because I had increased my value, and the marketplace always reflects that truth. Let's make it very clear. You don't have to be famous. You don't need to be born with special gifts. But you must develop. You need to learn something the world is willing to pay for. You must solve problems that matter. You must become exceptional at what you do, so much so that people look for you. The encouraging news, this is available to anyone. You can rise from low wages to high influence. But it takes a mindset shift. Stop wondering what will they pay me and start asking who can I become that deserves more. That kind of thinking unlocks new potential. Here are 5 things you can do this very week to raise your value. Read a great book in your area of expertise. Knowledge increases earning potential. Learn how to solve a frequent and expensive problem. People pay for real solutions. Identify someone already successful in your field. Observe them. Learn from their behavior. Practice daily. Without repetition, skill fades. Mastery is built over time. Teach what you're learning. Teaching reinforces understanding and deepens learning. Remember, building value isn't an event, it's a consistent effort. You build it, day after day. Let me close this section with a powerful perspective. Don't wish for more money. Aim to become a more valuable individual. Don't hope for easier roads. Seek stronger abilities. Don't wait for life to change. Choose to be the change. Because when you evolve, your whole life evolves with you. Your wealth, your influence, your belief, and your future. And it starts when you stop exchanging hours and start expanding your value. Let's continue the journey. Formal education earns you a living. Self-education earns you a fortune. This statement, one of the most enduring truths I've ever shared, still echoes today. Formal schooling may help you survive, but self-directed learning, that's where freedom begins. Here's why it matters. A basic living covers your needs. It pays bills. It keeps the lights on. But a basic living won't buy time. It won't build impact. It won't bring financial freedom. That's why stopping your education at the classroom door is a mistake. You must continue to grow. Take charge of your own learning and never give that responsibility away again. I attended school. I sat in classrooms. I passed the exams. I collected the diploma, but I quickly realized something important. A degree doesn't secure financial success. It doesn't guarantee wisdom, and it certainly doesn't ensure fulfillment. Here's the deeper truth. It's what you choose to learn after school that defines how far you go in life. Unfortunately, most people stop learning once the school bell rings for the last time, and that's the true loss. Because the most valuable education, the kind that builds freedom and fortune, starts where formal education ends. Formal schooling provides a structure. It teaches you facts, gives you a base. That has its merit, but self-education, that's where transformation begins. That's where you learn to think independently, to adapt, to create, to problem solve, to lead. Self-education is the education that never ends. It happens in the early morning when you read something inspiring. It happens in the quiet of the evening when you pause to reflect. It grows through personal exploration, conversation, curiosity, not classroom rules. Here's a little-known truth about the truly wealthy. They never stop learning. Step into their homes, you won't just see status symbols. You'll find libraries. Sit down for a conversation. They'll ask questions before offering opinions. They study people, they study systems, they study themselves, because they understand the more they grow in knowledge, the more their results grow too, and they don't wait to be taught. They go after it. They search. They dig. They pursue wisdom intentionally. When I was in financial trouble, I didn't wait for a better job. I changed my approach to learning. I shifted my focus to personal education. I began reading, not fiction, not escape, but challenging, practical books. Books that rewired how I viewed wealth, success, and purpose. I read Think and Grow Rich. I devoured How to Win Friends and Influence People. I listened to audio programs. I showed up to seminars. I took notes, stayed humble, stayed open. I wasn't the sharpest person in the room, but I was determined to be the most coachable. That decision changed everything, my mindset, my income, my identity. Let me leave you with this powerful truth. The space between your current life and your dream life is filled with knowledge. Not luck, not coincidence, not even time. Just pure, applicable knowledge. And that knowledge is out there waiting for you in books, in mentors, in trial and error, in quiet daily practice. But but you have to seek it. You must become someone who pursues wisdom the way others chase comfort or entertainment. Self-education isn't just an advantage, it's a necessity, and those who build that habit build wealth that goes beyond their bank accounts. They develop clarity, calmness in chaos, strategic minds, because they've trained for it every day, quietly, consistently. So you ask, Napoleon, where do I begin? Begin with the books that stretch you. Take in one idea each day. Apply it, test it, think on it. Learn from people who've already achieved what you dream of. Surround yourself with their words, their examples, their principles, and most importantly, start now, because the moment you take full ownership of your personal growth is the very moment you begin to shape your destiny. Here's a lesson life taught me. Traditional education may lead you down a preset path, but self-education hands you the tools to forge your own. A diploma may give you credentials, but self-education grants you freedom. In school, you're often told what to think. With self-education, you learn how to ask the right questions. And in a world that shifts faster than ever before, the leaders aren't always the most credentialed. They're the ones who adapt and learn the fastest. Now let me present you with a challenge. Over the next 30 days, dedicate just 30 minutes a day to feeding your mind. Not with entertainment, not with idle talk, but with truth, insight, and challenge. Choose a timeless book. Study the habits of someone who has succeeded. Journal your reflections. Talk about them with thoughtful people. Watch how your thinking transforms, your clarity increases, your sense of purpose sharpens. Because once your mind expands, your entire life begins to evolve with it. Here's something I've learned and passed on countless times. Don't depend solely on the education others gave you. Invest in the knowledge you pursue for yourself. That's the kind of learning that builds wealth. That opens new frontiers that no economic downturn or employer can strip away. Formal education may earn you a paycheck, but self-education creates empires, and that decision is completely yours. Let's move on to another timeless truth. Commit more effort to improving yourself than your job. If there's one insight I wish I had mastered earlier in life, it's this. Dedicate more energy to becoming a better version of yourself than to just getting better at your job. It's deceptively simple, but it holds the power to revolutionize your wealth, your confidence, your influence, and your entire future. Most people channel their focus into increasing their job performance. Few invest in developing themselves. But the greatest opportunity lies in inner growth, because when you evolve, everything else aligns with that growth. When I first entered the workforce, I did what was required. I showed up. I followed procedures. I worked the hours, but nothing changed until one day a mentor looked me in the eye and said, Napoleon, if you keep acting the same, your results won't change. And then came the phrase that rewired my thinking. If you want to experience more, you must become more. That truth struck a chord. I had been trying to alter my circumstances without changing myself, but it doesn't work that way. You can't transform your income unless you transform your thinking. You can't get better outcomes without building better routines. You can't elevate your lifestyle without first elevating your character. So I asked, where do I begin? His reply was simple, start with yourself. That moment marked a turning point. I began immersing myself in books. I listened to empowering audios. I attended live seminars. I wrote down lessons in journals. I woke up earlier. I used my time more intentionally, not because I had to, but because I saw what I could become. Over time, the world responded. I didn't have to chase opportunities. They began finding me. I didn't have to ask for success. It started aligning with the person I was becoming. Why? Because growth attracts greatness. And the more you evolve, the more the world wants to work with you. Let me speak candidly about employment. A job can provide an income, but it's your personal development that builds a fortune. A job might offer temporary security, but true freedom comes from who you become. If your growth is limited to what your role demands, then your compensation will always be limited by that same role. But if you commit to growing beyond your job description, you'll soon find yourself outgrowing your current position. in influence, in earnings, and in impact. That's why the most valuable work you'll ever do doesn't happen behind a desk. It doesn't happen inside a business. It happens within you. Now let me offer something practical. Ask yourself these 3 questions every day. What new insight did I gain today that made me wiser than I was yesterday? What did I practice that strengthened my skill set? What step did I take that brought me closer to my desired future? If you can answer those honestly, you're making the kind of progress that compounds. Because growth doesn't appear by accident. It's a deliberate pursuit, a discipline. You may ask, Napoleon, what if my job drains me? What if I have nothing left at the end of the day? I understand that. I've felt it myself. But that's precisely when personal growth matters most. Because as you get stronger, pressure feels lighter. As you gain vision, the confusion dissipates. As you evolve, your environment begins to shift too. The answer isn't found in working extra hours. It's found in becoming the kind of person who achieves more in fewer hours. Because you're more capable, more intentional, more focused. And that kind of transformation only comes through intentional self-growth. So how do you work harder on yourself? Here are practices that reshaped my journey. Commit to reading 1 challenging book per month. Keep a journal where you record insights, goals, and progress daily. Listen to wise mentors through recordings, talks, or books. Hone your essential skills every day. Whether it's leadership, speaking, writing, or organizing, reflect meaningfully. Not just on what you did, but on what you learned. And most importantly, do the uncomfortable, growth-driven work, especially when nobody's watching. Because transformation doesn't begin on a stage. It begins in silence. Those private breakthroughs, they lay the groundwork for public achievements. Here's something to hold on to. You don't get paid just for effort. You get paid for the value you bring, and that value will always rise to match the internal growth you've built. So if you want to increase your worth, expand your wisdom, if you want to deepen your influence, if you want to change your income, transform your inner world. Let me conclude with this. Don't merely focus on building a career. Focus on building yourself. Don't just search for the next raise. Seek the next breakthrough within you. Because once you become the type of individual that opportunity can't overlook, success won't need to be chased. It will naturally come to you. And it all begins with this declaration. Starting today, I will dedicate more effort to improving myself than to fulfilling my job. Let's continue. Profits surpass wages. Let me share with you one of the most empowering ideas I've ever embraced. Wages will sustain your lifestyle. Profits will transform your life. Wages, of course, have value. They pay for your needs. They keep your household stable. They provide a sense of security. But here's the truth. Wages are restricted. They're defined by others. A corporation, a supervisor, a structure. Often they're tied to hours, not to vision or value. Profits, on the other hand, come from what you create, from what you own, from assets that keep generating even while you sleep. This is the difference between exchanging time and engineering system, between living by a paycheck and living by potential. And once I saw that clearly, my entire financial philosophy evolved. In my early days, I lived on wages. I worked long days. I stayed committed. I gave my best. But week after week, my income remained unchanged, regardless of how much value I added. Why? Because the wage system isn't designed to scale. And that's when I understood if I stayed within that framework, freedom would always be out of reach. That's when I discovered the world of entrepreneurship. That's when I understood sales. That's when I realized the power of building something that doesn't depend entirely on my constant input. That's when I stepped into the mindset of profits. Let me be crystal clear. Profits are not only for business moguls. Profits are for thinkers, visionaries, creators. You can sell something meaningful. Launch a training program. Deliver a service. Start with a side project. Write something impactful. Turn your experience into an offering. Because with profits, you determine your worth. No one limits your potential. No manager sets your ceiling. And best of all, profits allow you to scale your impact. Imagine this. You write a book. You write it once, and it continues to sell while you travel, rest, or explore. That's profit. You build an educational course, teach it once, and people purchase it month after month. That's profit. You develop a small enterprise, train a capable team, create a system, eventually it operates independently. That's profit. The path to wealth is not just about working harder, it's about leveraging your knowledge, systems, and creativity to build something that grows beyond your effort. Here's a fundamental truth. Wages come from the tasks you perform. Profits, however, come from the value you build. If financial freedom is your destination, you can't afford to think only as an employee. You must start thinking like a value creator. You must shift your mindset from earning income to building assets, from clocking hours to leveraging time, from simply surviving to designing something scalable. Now, I'm not suggesting you walk away from your job today. What I am suggesting is this. Begin to think beyond the paycheck. Ask yourself, what can I create that helps others and earns income? What knowledge or skills do I have that others would invest in learning? What product, service, or idea do I hold that can benefit people and benefit me financially? That's the seed of profit. And like any seed, it requires patience, nurturing, and consistent effort. But once it grows, it can flourish beyond what you imagine possible. Let me offer some practical ways to start developing profit, even if you're starting from zero. Start a side venture. Use your offers to test ideas. Offer services. Sell something valuable. Create once, sell it repeatedly. Write a guide. Develop a course. Build a useful template or tool. And one of the most important skills, learn how to sell. Selling is not reserved for professionals. It's a universal key to unlocking income and impact. Build your digital platform. Today, your voice and ideas can reach people around the globe. Through websites, social media, content, you now have access to scale. Collaborate with others. You don't have to carry it alone. Find partners whose strengths support your vision. Always remember, even a small profit is better than none. Because once you experience what it means to earn without needing to show up on a clock, your entire perspective shifts. Here's what I want to leave you with. Earning a wage is perfectly respectable, but don't stop there. Don't assume that's the limit, because if you can earn for someone else, you can learn to earn for yourself. And when you begin creating value that's truly your own, when you stop trading time and start creating impact, that's when real freedom begins. And freedom, my friend, is a far greater reward than any paycheck can provide. Let's continue forward. Don't surround yourself with ease. Surround yourself with elevation. Here's a principle that revolutionized my life, and I hope it changes yours. Never settle in an easy crowd. You won't grow there. Surround yourself with higher expectations. Enter environments that challenge your limits. Seek conversations that stretch your thinking. It won't always be comfortable, but it will be transformational. Here's what I've found. We either rise or fall in direct proportion to the people we associate with. Most individuals want to feel accepted. They crave belonging, so they remain in groups that never push them, environments that encourage complacency, circles that whisper, stay the same, don't stretch, don't aim too high. And while that may feel safe temporarily, over time, it shrinks you. Your purpose dims, your hunger fades, your standards decline. Why? Because growth only occurs where it is expected and demanded. That's the real danger of staying in the comfort of an easy crowd. I still remember the moment my mentor told me, Napoleon, it's far wiser to be around people who stretch your potential than those who keep you comfortable but stagnant. That sentence hit me like lightning. It forced me to recognize that I had been spending time with individuals who didn't think big, who didn't speak of purpose, progress, or vision. Their conversations revolved around entertainment, complaints, and small talk. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, unless your aim is to build a life of purpose and prosperity. That day, I made a decision that changed everything. I began seeking out a different circle, not a group that made me feel accepted, but one that inspired me to evolve. Here's a timeless insight. If you're consistently the most knowledgeable person in your circle, you've outgrown that space. You need to place yourself among people who elevate your thinking, who make you hesitate before speaking because they challenge your limits, people who confront your excuses, people who awaken your ambition. Yes, it might be uncomfortable at first, but that discomfort is the beginning of transformation. Let's be honest, stepping out of a familiar crowd is rarely easy. It can feel isolating, it can feel awkward, it might even make you question your place. But that is where growth lives, in the unfamiliar. Because the environment where you feel least established is often the one where you have the most to gain. Growth never comes without tension, but it always brings rewards. So how do you elevate your circle? Look, for people who live with intention, people who speak of ideas, not just people, people who chase goals, seek wisdom, ask deeper questions, and build meaningful work. They're not flawless, but they're moving forward. And when you immerse yourself in such an environment, it's infectious. You catch their focus, you mirror their energy, you adopt their ambition, because greatness leaves clues and it spreads to those who are ready to receive it. Here are a few questions to reflect on. Who are the 5 people I spend most of my time with? What subjects fill our conversations? Do they push me to rise or just help me stay the same? Are they fueling my progress or anchoring my comfort? If I became just like them, would I be proud of the person I'd become? Your honest answers will reveal your next step. Sometimes relationships have served their season. Some friendships bring familiarity but not fruitfulness. And sometimes, in order to elevate, you must join new communities, find new mentors, attend new gatherings. This isn't about rejection, it's about direction. You can still care about others without modeling your future after their limitation. You can still respect them without replicating their path, because your destiny is too important to let it be shaped by passive influence. Let me leave you with this. Don't chase crowds that soothe your comfort zone. Seek the circle that awakens your calling, the one that calls you to aim higher, speak clearer, think deeper, and act with discipline. Find people who speak to your potential, not your past. And when you surround yourself with the right crowd, you won't just grow, you'll lead. So don't settle for the easy crowd. Rise to meet the one that challenges you, because creating a greater life starts with becoming a greater version of you. And those becoming more always find themselves among those who expect more. Let me bring the message home with clarity. Your environment dictates your elevation. If you consistently remain in rooms where you're the one giving all the advice, leading all the conversations, and setting the pace, then perhaps it's time to seek a new room. True growth begins where you feel just a bit out of your depth, challenged, stretched, and inspired. Surround yourself with individuals who challenge your assumptions, people who don't settle for surface-level answers, people who demand more from you, not to criticize, but to cultivate your best self. These are the voices that interrupt your excuses, question your limitations, and ignite your personal evolution. And yes, it may bruise your pride in the beginning. But that very discomfort, it's the birthplace of breakthrough. You may wonder, Napoleon, what if I feel like I don't fit in with those high-level thinkers? That's exactly why you need to stay. The rooms where you don't quite fit are often the spaces where you grow the most. Real growth doesn't cater to comfort, it requires courage, and it always pays dividends. So how do you find these growth-oriented spaces? Start by noticing those who live with intention. People who rise early to study, who pursue goals with passion, who ask meaningful questions and move with momentum. These individuals aren't perfect, but they are progressing. And once you begin to align with those mindsets, everything shifts. You adopt their discipline, you absorb their ambition, you catch their clarity, because achievement, like energy, is contagious. Here's your reflection. Who are the 5 people you spend the bulk of your time with? What topics dominate your conversations? Are they challenging you or merely agreeing with you? Are they pulling you forward or keeping you anchored? If you became just like them, would you be proud of who you've become? Your honest answers will shine light on your direction. Sometimes meaningful growth requires new associations. You may need to attend different events, seek new communities, or find new mentors. This isn't about cutting people off. It's about choosing a higher path. You can love and support others without letting them define your potential, because your destiny is too valuable to let it be steered by the wrong influences. So here's what I'll leave you with. Don't simply look for a circle that comforts your current version. Seek a circle that calls out your future potential, that stirs your purpose, that sharpens your thinking, that strengthens your discipline. Find voices that speak to the next version of you, not the past one. And when you do, when you surround yourself with a stronger circle, you won't just grow, you'll become someone others aspire to follow. So don't settle for the crowd that makes life easy. Align with the one that stretches you, because building a powerful future begins with becoming a more empowered you. And empowered individuals seek out elevated environments.